Hello guys. Uncle Sam here again, before we dive into the part 2 of this story. If you are new here, please subscribe. We want to reach 50,000 subscribers before the end of this year. Let's get into the story. Mr. Royce, Alice's father, heard Alice's voice crying out and shouting for help. He ran toward her voice, till he got to a pit where the voice was coming from. He looked and saw Alice hanging, about to fall into a pit. She was barely holding on, and shouting for help. He quickly grabbed her hand and was trying to pull her out. Oscar shows up behind Mr. Royce and started hitting him with a stick. He couldn't defend himself. If he lets her go to defend himself, she will fall into the pit and die, so he held on to her as tight as he could, while Oscar kept flogging him with the stick and shouting, "Where is my snake? Give me my snake." As his hands loosened a little from holding on to Alice, Mr. Royce woke up from the dream. He sat on his bed worried. It was late at night, and it's been 3 days since he came home from the hospital. He has not fully recovered, but he has started making moves already to go after Oscar and find a way to turn Alice back to herself again. But first, he needs money. The father of the boy that caused him to have the accident that nearly took his life is a well-known politician, and the man has written him a check of 5 million, which will clear in 5 days' time. So he has 2 days left for the check to clear, and he also gave him a brand new car to buy his silence, for Mr. Royce not to expose to the world that the politician's son was on drugs, which was what led to the accident. 2 days quickly passed and Mr. Royce got all the money he needed. He goes straight to Alice's school to see Alice's best friend Jane. He met with Jane and she was shocked to see him. She explained everything she knows about Oscar and how he can find him. Mr. Royce went to the club on 2 different occasions to find Oscar, but he never showed up at any of the clubs. People claim they have not seen him for days, which is unlike him. So Mr. Royce had no choice but to call Oscar from Alice's phone. He picked the call and agreed they can meet. He sent a location and they met on a neutral ground. Oscar was there with his bodyguards, and Mr. Royce pleaded with him to turn his daughter back, that he will pay him back all the money the daughter took from him. Oscar laughed and said, "Mr. Man, you have no idea what your daughter has caused me. I don't need money, I need my snake. If you can bring back my snake, I will gladly turn Alice back, but if not, she will remain a goat for the rest of her life." Mr. Royce said, "But I heard she killed the snake, so how do we bring back a dead snake? How can she find that snake, with her being turned into a goat?" Oscar replied, "She is not deaf. Tell her to lead you to where she kept my snake. Whether the snake is dead or alive, I need it back, or else, she will remain a goat for the rest of her life." Mr. Royce lost his cool, and said, "You have no idea who I am, little boy. I will get my daughter back to her right self, with or without you, and if it means someone will die for it to happen, one of us will not be breathing. I will not watch my daughter go through this pain because of me. Just like she can do anything for me, I will do anything for her, so I will be back, and you won't like me." Oscar started laughing, and said, "You have just 3 days to bring my snake or I won't need it anymore, and let me see what you can do." Just 3 days. Mr. Royce entered his car and left. That same day, Mr. Royce got an information that there is a traditional healer called the Great One, who can help him reverse the curse on Alice, so he went straight to see the man. As he sat with the old man, he explained the whole story. The man asked him, "Where is your daughter now?" He said, "She is at home with her sisters." The old man did some consultations and told him, "What you are dealing with is very serious. Oscar is not who you think he is. Oscar is an old man. He is 162 years old. He killed all his family and made a deal with an evil altar, that he will never grow old or die. That snake your daughter killed is not the source of his wealth. Oscar is a ritualist, but he did not do money rituals. the money he has is legit, that is why the police cannot arrest him, they know the source of his wealth. He deals in forest trade, and due to his age, he only needs to place one trade per day, and make billions. The rituals Oscar did is for self-preservation, that he may live forever and never die. That snake is his source of youthful renewal. The snake swallowed the ring, that ring is the reason Oscar is still alive and young. Anytime that snake sleeps with a girl, it will take all the girl's eggs, which are her unborn babies, and also take away the girl's womb, and that girl will never have children for the rest of her life. Then the snake spiritually transfers those eggs from the girl's womb to renew Oscar's youth, that is why he doesn't age. He uses those eggs from the unborn babies to renew his youth, and that is why he has no one close to him or a family member, because they will reveal his secret. Some of the girls who sleep with the snake ends up dying mysteriously after some years. They will just start bleeding uncontrollably and from there they will die. And because it's been years, nobody will trace it back to Oscar. Without that ring, Oscar will not be able to renew his youth, and he might become old overnight, so he is desperately looking for that ring. And he cannot tell you all this. That is why he wants the snake, whether dead or alive. Mr. Royce was speechless and confused, then he said, that means if he gets the snake, he will take out the ring and transfer it into another snake and continue his wickedness. The Great One replied, "You are right, my son." Then he asked, "So what do I do now?" Because Oscar gave me 3 days, he said after 3 days, he doesn't need the snake anymore. What does that mean? The Great One consulted again, and after a while he said, "My son, Oscar has already gotten another snake. There will be a full moon in the next 4 days. He will sacrifice one of his legs, to use his own blood to call back the ring wherever it is. The ring will disappear from the belly of the dead snake and appear in his house, but once he does that, one of his legs will be paralyzed forever. Then he will place the ring back into his new snake and continue his ways." Mr. Royce became more confused, then he said, "Great One, can you show me where the snake is? Let me go and take the snake back to him, so he can reverse the curse." The Great One replied, "I can show you where the snake is, but if you go to Oscar's house with that snake, you will not come out alive, because you know too much already. But there is one way to fix this. You have to get that chain from Oscar, the chain he used to lay the curse on your daughter Alice. If you can get that chain, and bring it to me, I will reverse the curse on your daughter. That is the only way." Mr. Royce said, "How will I get the chain?" The Great One replied, "You have to break into Oscar's house. On the day of the rituals, he will be alone. He will send his guards home. Sneak into his house around 12 midnight while he is performing the rituals. If Oscar fails to complete the ritual that night, he will become old and die immediately. So he will focus more on the rituals. Even if he sees you, he will want to finish the rituals first before he can do anything to you. Look for the chain, bring it to me, and I will do the rest." Mr. Royce replied, "I will do whatever it takes to make sure my daughter returns to her normal self." Then he left. On the 4th day, Mr. Royce took his 2 daughters, Linda, Mercy, and Alice the goat, to the Great One's house. Before he left to embark on his deadly journey, he handed a letter over to Linda, who is older than Mercy. He told her, "If I don't come back by tomorrow morning, open this letter and you guys will know what to do." Then he left. That night, as he got to Oscar's house, his dogs were loose and they started barking. He threw poisoned bread into the compound and waited for 50 minutes. Then he managed to climb the fence and enter the compound. By then, the dogs were sleeping. He entered the house undetected. Inside the house, Oscar was performing the rituals in the room where he usually keeps the snake. Mr. Royce didn't know where to start searching for the chain because the house was too big, so he could not check everywhere. After a while, Oscar came out of the room to collect something and went back in. But he didn't see Mr. Royce, who was hiding. Mr. Royce opened the door a little to see what Oscar was doing. He saw the new white snake lying on the bed, and next to it was Oscar, chanting some incantations. As he looked, he saw the chain on the table inside the room. He started wondering what to do, maybe to bash into the room and fight Oscar, overpower him, and take the chain. As he was still thinking of what to do, suddenly Oscar screamed, and a loud thunder sound was heard. The ring immediately appeared inside a pot in the room. That was when he knew if he doesn't act, the rituals will be complete and his daughter may never be transformed again. He pushed open the door and punched Oscar on the face. He ran and took the chain. As he wanted to run out, the snake stood to attack him and he went back and picked up the ring. Immediately he took the ring, the snake fell back on the bed. Oscar shouted, "I will kill you." Mr. Royce ran out of the house. As he was running to the gate, Oscar shot him at the back. He fell and stood up. Oscar shot him again. Mr. Royce managed to leave the compound, staggered into his car and drove off. Oscar went inside. Immediately the clock alarm sounded for 1 a.m. Oscar sat in his chair. His body started turning into an old man. He took a glass and poured some wine. He drank and sat there, looking very old. His breath started ceasing. He could hardly breathe. Then he took a deep breath and the wine glass fell off his hand. Mr. Royce got to the Great One's house. He managed to stagger into the house and fainted, with the chain on his hands. 2 days passed and Alice was standing by his father's bedside again. In the hospital, the father survived the gunshot, but he is back in a coma again, and this time there was no assurance that he would get back alive, but the access to his money he left in the letter helped to pay for his medical bills. After a month, Alice received a call from the hospital. His father is awake, but due to the gunshot, he will never walk again for the rest of his life. The police got a tip to raid Oscar's house and discovered all the fetish things in the house, including a white dead snake and also Oscar's old-looking dead body. Story ends. Moral of this story. Number 1. No one lives forever. Number 2. Every decision you make in life has a consequence. Always try to make the best decision for your life, or you might pay dearly for it much later. I remain Uncle Sam. Stay safe. If you have watched this far, I hope you enjoyed the story. The true aspect of this story is Alex slept with the snake 3 times and killed it on her 4th visit. Yes, she was truly turned into a goat. About her father's accident and her sister's part were all made up. And also, this whole part 2 was made up. As at when this story was written, we didn't know if she was ever turned back to a human or she remained a goat. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe for more.